Hey everybody, welcome back. One of the great new features coming these days with new ranges is the ability to air fry. That feature is super convenient, but I do see a lot of people complaining about excessive amounts of smoke when they're using it. So in this video, we're going to give you 7 tips to help cut down on that smoke or even eliminate it altogether. We're going to be talking specifically about Frigidaire's new induction range with air fry capability, but really these tips are going to apply to any range that you get that has that air fry capability. So you ready? Let's get into this. Tip number 1 is to know the smoke point of your oil. That is the temperature at which your oil burns at. Different oils have different uses, different flavors, and most of all, different smoke points. Right here we'll show you a quick list of different oils and what their smoke points are. The highest temperature oils are oils like avocado oil, grapeseed oil, and peanut oil. Those all make really great oils for frying because typically frying is going to be done at the highest temperatures. At the very bottom of the list you have things like seed oils and things like that. Those oils you typically have to run at very low temperature, or they're used as garnish or flavoring at the end of your recipe and don't necessarily get cooked at all. And you'll see olive oil in the middle. Notice that extra virgin olive oil has much lower smoke point than regular olive oil. That one we mentioned because olive oil is the go-to oil in most kitchens. If you decide to use a cooking spray, the same rules apply. Get your cooking spray based on the same criteria. Knowing the smoke point of your oil is probably the most important tip in this video. Tip number 2 is to keep the inside of your oven and your racks clean. You can do that either by using some oven cleaner every so often, the self-clean feature in the oven, or a little bit of both. Either way, the frequency that you do that is going to be based upon how often you use your oven. So if your oven isn't clean, especially if you have old oil that's dripped down into the bottom pan, remember every single crumb, every little bit of sludge, that will cause a ton of smoke too. If you do the oven self-clean, you've got to remove all your racks because the temperature on the self-clean is so high that those can get warped. So be sure to protect your investment. Tip number 3 involves overcooking. Basically with everything that you cook, whether you're air frying it or not, the longer you cook it, the less moisture is left inside of it. The drier that gets, especially if it's got some kind of breading or crust or something like that on it, the higher the chance of that starting to burn, and obviously when things start to burn, they produce smoke. So keep an eye on that and don't overcook your food. Tip number 4 goes hand in hand with tip number 3, and that involves the cooking temperature. Everything you cook, whether it's on one of the burners or in the oven, either air frying or baking, is affected by the temperature at which you cook at. Lower temperatures cook slower but take longer. Higher temperatures cook a lot faster, but it's a lot harder on your food too. As a rule of thumb, you only use the maximum temperature that you need to use in order to get the job done. Don't just crank it up because you're in a hurry, because that's going to make the outside cook a lot faster than the inside, which means by the time the inside is cooked properly, the outside is probably going to be annihilated, which means more burning and more smoke. Tip number 5. When you're air frying, be sure to use a drip pan that's lined with aluminum foil and parchment paper. There's really 2 ways to go about this. You can use a pan that's already designed to use this, where it's got a medium depth pan underneath and another part that sits up on top where all your food goes. Or in the case with our Frigidaire induction range, there's a special tray that you slide into the oven itself. If you're using the slide-in tray, then you're going to want to slide another shelf in right below it, and that's where you're going to set a sheet pan that's lined with that aluminum foil and the parchment paper. If you're using the broiling pan, then you're going to take the top off it and line the lower tray with the aluminum foil and the parchment paper instead. You use the aluminum foil to line the pan, that way you don't have droppings coming right down onto the surface of the pan and smoking. Not to mention the fact that foil-lined pans are a breeze to clean up. If you use the parchment paper over the top of that, then that will trap a lot of the oil and prevent it from burning. So a combination of those 2 things should help out a lot. By the way, if this is your first time here and you want to learn some cool new recipes, get some great cooking tips and tricks and all sorts of other kitchen-related things, then start now by subscribing to the channel and clicking the notification bell so you never miss a thing. Tip number 6 is overcrowding. Oven-based air fry trays have a ton of space on them. That in turn might make you get a little bit aggressive with placement of your food, and you may try to cram a little bit too much into that space. Remember, there needs to be a little bit of space between each piece of food in order for the air to circulate properly. And if you don't, it really won't cook the way you want it to, and you're going to have spots that are cooked more and spots that are cooked less. In the parts that cook less, you're going to have a lot more grease settling there, so that will create a lot more dripping, which can cause smoke. And also the other areas of the food will overcook, and that will produce smoke. Tip number 7 is for ventilation, and you may or may not be able to do anything about this. The vent on our Frigidaire oven is behind the burners, but in front of the control panel. If you've got smoke coming out, you're really going to see it right there. There's really only 3 ways for that to vent. Either you have no ventilation, which means that Any smoke coming out of there is going all through your house. In that case, all you can do is open your doors and windows and smack that smoke detector off the ceiling with a broomstick. Second, you can have a dedicated range hood. Range hoods are usually set up to ventilate outside of your house, so if you've got one, even if you're producing a lot of smoke, those do a really good job of sucking all that smoke up and blowing it out of the back of your house. However, the most common setup you see is a microwave oven sitting over your range. Microwave ovens do ventilation too, and they can do it in two different ways. It's either going to recirculate or it's going to push that air out of your house just like the range hood does. If it's recirculating, the efficiency of that just kind of depends on the microwave that you have, but it sucks all that smoke in underneath the microwave, circulates it, and then blows the clean air out the front. For the most part, that's usually not very effective, and if you've got a lot of smoke coming in, probably the microwave can't handle it all in that setup. Microwaves can also be set to exhaust out of the top or the back as well. And in that case, it works a lot like a range hood does. The only problem there is most of the time it's not already set up that way. So that would require a contractor coming out and making a vent for you. If you've got a condominium or townhome, a lot of times you've got shared walls and that might not be a possibility for you. But if you can, it definitely makes a big difference. Range hoods are typically better because they're more powerful, but the microwave-based ones are more convenient because unless you got a big kitchen, where are you going to put your microwave? In any case, if you can use all these tips or even some of them, then it should make a really big difference in the amount of smoke that gets produced, and therefore your overall experience is going to be so much. If you'd like to learn a little bit more about us, you can check out a couple more videos, or you can check us out online at joesphenomenal.com. I thank you so much for taking a little bit of time out of your day to watch this video. It really means a lot to me and can't wait to see you back again here really soon. So until that time, I'm Joe, and I hope you have a phenomenal day. Take it easy.